Awesome. I'm happy to be back on the line with you. Is this a line anymore? With you, Bryan. Post NRF. I mean, we both saw a lot of technology kind of in and around, whether we were there or not, from an announcement point of view.
Yep.
Clearly, marketing and AI were popular topics. We were happy to have you guys sponsor our event, which we were able to see a number of your folks there and a lot of great brands. So thanks for
Yep.
coming on again.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So I think, look, AI is a topic that people can't stop talking about, and I think it's almost like, can you remember a time where we're seeing this sort of pace of innovation? I almost go back to like, I don't know, like the 80s and PC chips, and like it just seems like every year you had to get a new computer, and now it's like AI. It's innovating faster than that even. Um, it seems like that's creating disruption all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and we've certainly seen with each successive sort of wave or trend in technology, it moves faster, and it's sort of
Mhm.
hard to fathom the pace at which um, sort of AI is evolving right before our eyes. Um, you know, you know, we went from in a matter of weeks from AI is the greatest capital expenditure in the history of technology to being now I can train a model for $50 that's open source and I can run it anywhere. So so like the rules of the game and who the perceived winners are is changing day by day. But I think I think that creates opportunities for, risk takers and mavericks in the market and
Yeah.
people who are willing um, to take a chance and experiment with things as a way to differentiate their brand or their experience or the things that they're doing with technology.
Yeah, I mean, so the pace of change is one thing, and then how that affects the shopping experience. If you kind of go
Hmm.
back to ultimately the customer is the center of your business, what does the consumer perceive, and how is their life changed by AI and these tools that they now have at their disposal? I think a lot of people in our personal networks are talking to AI 24/7, about different things. I just planned my whole meals plan for this week and then cooking based on a conversation with ChatGPT. They couldn't cook the meal for me, but it basically did everything else. Um,
Totally. Yeah, no, I do the same. I plan all my workouts now. I told all the equipment I have available to me every day it generates a new workout for me. So it's brilliant, and certainly I think one of the things that a merchant has got to be thinking about is the announcement of the stuff Perplexity's doing and now
mm,
OpenAI is doing with Operator, where suddenly now the AI can shop for you, right? And I remember having a conversation last summer with a friend of mine who's based in Seattle, who goes to a lot of AI meetups. And this was
mm,
top of the mind. He's like, we're going to have personalized shopping assistants that understand the things you buy and the preferences, and they're going to do it for you. You're just going to tell it, hey, I need a new shirt. I need a jacket. I'm going to an event that looks like this.
right.
And it's going to shop for you. It's going to do your groceries for you. Um, and it's funny, I have elderly in-laws who are having health issues, and this is exactly what they need because they can't go to the grocery store anymore. So in some ways, maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think um, there's one thing like to tell you what you do, and then how do you get equipment? What does it recommend? How does it
Hmm.
recommend? And I
Hmm. Yeah.
think so. There's that thread of like the buying experience, which is one thing, which is like do it for you. But
Hmm.
then why does it recommend what it recommends? To me, it's like a super important question because otherwise, if you're not presented,
Hmm.
then you don't exist. So it's like a tree falling in the forest. And so, what do you think are some of the factors that are going to come to evolve in terms of how AI is deciding what to do from a like if I'm a brand, like what should I be thinking about in terms of uh, just even getting on the playing field.
Yeah, it's certainly a great question, and I think um I think, we're all seeing, I was reading, I was just exploring, because I use the Arc browser, that you can now replace Google as the default search engine
Uh-huh.
with an AI tool for
Yeah,
your search.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, I think what's been interesting through the history of search and SEO is we have this perceived ability to control the search results or influence the search
Mm-hmm.
results, that we can then go test because we show up on the first page or not for
Uh-huh.
certain keywords, and it is definitively unclear if that's the way AI search will work, even when they give you sources and what have you. I think what's really interesting right now, if I'm a brand, is I would argue content has never been more important
Mm.
for a brand
Mm.
around their products, because it needs something to scan, right? And
Right.
in we it's easy from a design point of view to fall in love with lots of white space and minimal content and just the facts and nothing else and great pictures and videos, and I think in some ways the sort of noisy deep content is actually has the potential to impact that. But again, it's a little bit unclear. I have a friend who's CEO of a company called Howso, which is about AI explainability. How did you make the
Mm.
determinations you made? I
Yeah.
think that, is a really interesting place to be right now because the world's going to be asking for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately what we're talking about, a lot of it depends on what the consumer is looking for. Are they looking for the
Hmm.
most popular brand that most people are using? Are they looking for the best one for them? The AI is going to have a lot of information considering consumers interacting with it all the time. It's going to know eventually it's going to know about your family, it's going to know about your
Hmm.
schedule, it's going to know about your likes and dislikes. And then when I make a query, it's going to be very different than the same person, similar to Google in certain ways.
Hmm.
From when you do it, that's the uncontrollable. The brand has no control over that, right? But then
Totally.
the other
Yeah.
side of it, I kind of feel that brand has control over two things. One is positioning. How do you describe yourself and who you're looking
Totally.
for? And then second is sentiment, which is you don't
Hmm.
have full control over your own sentiment, but if you don't have great content coming out all the time, particularly like earned reviews, earned media,
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
that if you ask AI, like, what do people say are the problems with this brand?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what comes back in that kind of search, I think is super interesting as a brand
That's
marketer to think about.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't heard the term earned media in a long time, but
Yeah.
I think there's something to that for sure. And I wonder, how much influence the search experience and the AI experience on your own properties, own
Hmm.
media impacts the ones that are unearned media. Because one of the things we know is like 80% of traffic on an e-commerce site, brand site, or a marketplace is through the search bar,
Yeah.
right? And now like that has potential to be disruptive. We're building a chatbot that you can put right in to search the product data because our strength is in product data and catalog, um, and to provide rich experiences, both to help you decide what questions to ask, but then also deliver the results without having to go through lots of facets and filters and sort of the very declarative user experience around the typical search experience. And so I think the in some ways, I'm curious how much of that um, trains the AI as it goes. And what is sort of the ongoing training based on inferencing in the wild really what really look like?
Hmm.
How does the model evolve over time?
Yeah. And then there's this whole question around, okay, the brand wants to do certain things and you want to increase your reputation in the marketplace. And then it's kind of like the SaaS and data community and technology providers. What do you think is their role in this new AI enabled world?
Hmm, that's a good question. I mean, I think. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think of it more from from sort of behind the firewall, the
Hmm.
the data lakes that you create um, to to generate information and insights about your own business. I don't know, but certainly you're not making that available to the world, if you will. But in your brand storefront, all of that, there's certainly part of that is about actually targeting the AI in the same way we sat there and looked at our list of keywords and said, how many of them are in our blog posts, right? Are we going to show up for
Right,
these
right, right.
things and score this? Not, I mean, I think the tactics remain similar, even though the methods may change. Um, but yeah, I think there will be this question of how much data that we maybe inside the four walls of the company becomes, do we want to make public for the benefit of improving our results in the sort of AI
Yeah.
driven world?
Yeah, one of the things that you posed from your last question is kind of the bifurcation of the experience and the data and how that feeds AI or the consumer experience. What starts within your sort of four walls, behind your own firewall, what's on your website, and then kind of what's in the public that everyone
Hmm.
can access. If you're a brand, are you thinking about how much do I invest in each layer in your stack? Or how do I begin to unpack a problem like that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. Think about the example of, when we talk about personalization today,
Mm,
we talk about, oh, frequently bought together, right? And that's sort of a cohort-based analysis combined with individual purchase behavior, right? Like, would it be to your benefit as a brand to make some of that exposed in some way that is not personally identifiable, but it, starts to develop sort of train the models, if you will, that
mhm.
these are the things that sort of naturally go together, right? And I mean, look, Amazon has more data about us than anyone, and I still think that they do that terribly.
Right,
So there's lots of room for improvement. I think it's hard to crack the code on that. I think the only ones that seem to do that from an algorithmically well are the social media channels.
right. No, for sure. You make a point about content, and it seems to me in the past 5 years, the importance that brands need to place on content for social media and personalization on those channels has gone up significantly. Um, and do you think, even independently of AI, do you think brands are under investing into the content part of their experience for their consumers?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I actually think that they do, and maybe this is an inflection point that changes, right? Like before I was at Elastic Path, I was in the CMS space with the company Acquia, and I've been I would describe myself as surprised getting into commerce is how little content there is.
Right.
But it's um, we talk about the need for enrichment, but like so much of the commerce experience is homogenized away to the bare minimum to drive
Mm,
conversions. I think AI has, you know, represents an inflection point where it may change the rules of the game from a conversion point of view, exactly as you where you started, which is because it's required to put yourself on the map in a way
right.
that wasn't necessarily there before.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, you bring up a point we've discussed at the past, which is these homogenized experiences, and I think that
Hmm.
a lot of comes from these sort of like UX design guidelines that have come to be very popular. Like your nav should be on the top, your hamburger
Hmm.
menu should be in the upper right, it should never be
Hmm.
2 clicks away from a checkout page
Hmm.
anywhere on
Hmm.
your website, which sort of like tends to put everyone in the same bucket together. But it doesn't necessarily mean that on the page you're immediately trying to funnel them to conversion, right? Because
Exactly.
especially in a considered purchase or a
Hmm.
more expensive purchase, you're not just earning clicks, you're earning trust. And
Hmm.
so the role of user experience and trust seems something important that we need to think about as well.
Yeah, I think so, and I think I think this creates an opportunity for for consumers to change the expectations for what
Mm,
experiences present, right? And I think um, I think whether it forces us to be more creative or more
hmm
engaging, I think the question becomes where's their starting point, and if their starting point comes from a
uh-huh.
response to a prompt into the thing, they I think they're going to want to match what they read in ChatGPT or in Perplexity with what they're seeing, and I think they may need assistance into you know, is this does this match my expectations? Am I ready to go? Sort of,
Yeah.
right? Because the typically the prompt responses are so information rich. You're going to want to continue that as as a thread over into whatever your shopping experience is.
Yeah, no, that's just fascinating. Kind of one of the things that we talked about at our NRF event was this idea of this new brand playbook is that after, now that COVID is over, brands are looking for a new way to sort of reignite growth through the experience that they offer consumers. What are some of the principles that are kind of like top of mind from an Elastic Path or even beyond Elastic Path point of view that should be in the owner of a brand's mind or a marketer's mind as they're like, how do we just get beyond this definition of a box and to like get truly creative about things?
I think there's certainly opportunities to rethink rethink their experiences and ensuring that you have the architecture to support
Mm,
new experiences that you can develop to engage your customers, and some of those may be in, what do you do when you have someone in a physical location that's on and it supports it on a digital site, as an example.
hmm.
um, or like, it's funny, I injured my ankle and went and saw a doctor a week ago, and then I was like, oh, I need to do like a foot bath. So I went into Target, and then I was like looking, where is it in Target? Turns out they're like, I found the thing I wanted, like, not available in stores. So I ordered it on Amazon right while I'm standing in Target.
Oh
Then I went to
man.
CVS and did the exact same thing with an ankle brace, right? Like that, like it's amazing that we still can't figure that stuff out.
Right,
Um, and it's addressing here I think I'm getting being efficient by going on my way home from the doctor,
right.
and I'm totally not being efficient at all. Um, but I think that's the part of that is the commerce thing, and part of that is sort of the
Yeah.
limitations of physical retail. Um, but I also think that there's an opportunity to, when you have a relationship with a customer, how do you maximize the value of that
Mm,
relationship? One of the things that we're seeing a tremendous amount is around loyalty, and how do we get
mm,
people back in? And we've talked a lot about sort of CDPs and customer
yeah.
profiles and all that, but all that still feels like very nascent in the commerce
Mm,
market. Like, and I don't know if it's because it's exceptionally challenging from a technical point of view, or it just requires skills that are outside the skill sets of typical merchandisers and marketers. Um, but it feels like it's standing there, and it's not like everyone doesn't see it. It feels like the market, the vendor market side certainly gets it, but we haven't quite seen the brand and the merchant side embrace it in a way to take advantage of it, certainly holistically across the market.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of brands are really souring on the idea of I need to put my quarter in the gumball machine and pay for my
Hmm.
next customer. Getting more out of
Hmm.
your existing customers is
Totally.
certainly on the radar. You mentioned a key word in your last answer, architecture.
Hmm.
Do you think brands are set up architecturally to make that journey, or do you think they still have obstacles that they're trying to overcome?
I think, one of the things that we've certainly seen in the market in the last few years have only reinforced forced this, is there's a huge um, dynamic of status quo in this
Mm.
market, right? People that have been on their commerce platform for 10 years
Yeah,
are being like, well, well, the devil I know is better than the, devil I know, right? And I think this is a great area of high potential return on investment that
right,
potentially justifies investments in sort of new architectures. And there's approaches, right? You don't have to, it's not a all or nothing
right.
dynamic, but I think you have to evolve in the market. Um, and it's amazing. I'm doing a research study now. We're interviewing lots of e-commerce leaders,
Mm,
and the reluctance to change is just enormous. And so it really does go back to, where are the people that are taking risks in this market? Where do they
mm.
reside, and how do I look at them as, how do I celebrate them and give them voice, because that's where people are pushing the boundaries. And ironically, I find this to be an exceptionally conservative market. in general. And maybe it's because it's dollars flowing through the website. Like, don't screw that up is the mantra. But like there's got to be ways to take risks, whether it be sort of an off-brand experience or a new market or a new
Yeah.
product line. Like, try some new things.
Yeah, I think that's a good message for us to end on. It's really kind of evolve or die.
Hmm.
You can keep look, you can always kick the can another year. But how many
Totally.
years, year after
Hmm.
year, can you do the same thing before the world passes you by? It feels to me, I don't know, but like we're in one of those eras where
Totally.
the future is being created like right in front of our eyes. And so if you're not on the field making change, you're kind of like your competitors are.
Totally. Yeah,
So
no,
I,
I agree. And and I think it's a post-COVID hangover, right? We're still sort of digesting the capital expenditures we made to
mhm,
get into e-commerce and to do new things, right? So, I'm hopeful in 5 years out, we're finally getting through that and have digested a lot of that investment. So, maybe now time people are AI becomes the inflection point to start to make new investments, if you will.
yeah, no, I think it's a good place for us to stop. Like, how do companies find the people to justify the risks or to
Hmm.
create the opportunity for risks? Like, what do we do and why? And
Hmm.
then how do they make the business case to the powers that be, who like always seem like the bad person, but ultimately they are really trying to say the CFO wants growth as much as you do. You just got to show them, like, lead them to the promised land a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
So I'm excited. I appreciate this conversation, Brian, and looking forward to many more like it in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick.